please?
Hey, Greg. Didn't you have problems starting your video the other day? What did you do to fix it?
I went to the lower left-hand corner, start video,
Yeah.
and just select camera, make sure the camera is not the integrated camera, but the live stream or the Logitech. You got it, Erica? Yeah.
No.
No?
You go back out and come back in again.
Okay.
Already done that twice.
Erica, make sure the hood's not on the camera, please. Erica, make sure the hood's not on the camera, please. Good evening.
It is.
Good evening. Good evening. All right. We have everybody? Wait a minute. Yeah. We gotta wait for Colleen. Yep. That helps. Hey, here we go.
Hi.
Hi. All right, we'll wait till Erica sits down. All right, give her a second, right?
Recording in progress.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. And welcome to this meeting of the Reading Municipal Light Board of Commissioners being held remotely on Zoom and streamed live on RCTV and YouTube. The RMLD Board of Commissioners recognizes the importance of hearing public comment at the discretion of the chair on items of the official agenda. We ask that all questions and comments from the public be directed to the chair and that all parties, including members of the RMLD board, act in a professional and courteous manner when addressing the board or responding to comments. Once recognized by the chair, all persons addressing the board shall state their name and address prior to speaking. It is the role of the chair to maintain order in all public comment or ensuing discussion. Chairman Bacino will be the board secretary. And could I kindly ask all remote participants to identify themselves? Bob Coulter.
Marlena Vita.
John Stempak.
Dave Talbot.
Bill Pacino. Excellent. Oh, I'm gonna veer off a little bit right here from the official agenda, and I just wanted to take a moment to say, unfortunately, if you have not heard, Colleen is going to be moving on and has announced her retirement. It's very unfortunate for us here at the RMLD. I'm sure very fortunate for you, Colleen, right? I'm jealous. I have to say, I'm very, very jealous. You've done a phenomenal job. I've known you for 2 years. Got great respect and for you and what you do here for RMLD. And I'm sure I speak for everybody on the board that you will be missed.
All right. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
And,
Appreciate that.
Yeah, you're very welcome. All right, and then I don't know if anybody else wanted to add a comment.
Echo those comments. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I also echo those comments. I think Colleen has done a phenomenal job over the past 9-10 years and reshaping and reforming the RMLD into something we can be so proud of moving forward. And I'm very sorry to see her retire.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to see Colleen go too. I mean, it's been great working with her and over these years, you know, all the managers that I've served, had the privilege of, I guess, being the boss of, I guess Colleen has been the best.
Oh, wow.
Well,
That's during tax season, Phil. Thank you very much. That's like pretty good. That's more, that's awesome. Thank you.
oh, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, all
I've
right.
spoken to Colleen, but I have told her that I've appreciated all of her one-on-one time that she's generously offered to me, and I've only taken her up on some of it. So I will miss more opportunities to work with you, Colleen, but I'm excited for you.
I think she'll have plenty of time now. Well, you come on, that's the whole point, right?
Yeah, well, that's the concept. We'll see.
Right, that's right. Okay, all right, moving on. I don't see anybody else participating from the public, so Jason, we were gonna do a joint meeting tonight, but I don't know if you have any comments from the Citizens Advisory Board.
No, at this time, our meeting has been postponed till April 4th, so nothing to report on at this time. While I do have it, I do want to say congratulations, Colleen. I've enjoyed working with you on the board for 4 years. So I really, congratulations and luck.
I'm always available as a resource if you need to call. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
We always want to help other MLPs.
Okay. Are there any comments from, excuse me, from liaisons to the board? Okay, and then no public comment because there's no public. All right, so moving on to the first motion. Bill, if I could please ask.
Ready? Move
Yes,
that the
sir.
Board of Commissioners approve the meeting minutes of January 19th, 2021 meeting on the recommendation of the general manager.
All those in favor?
Second.
All those in favor?
Stand back, aye.
Marlena Beta, aye.
All right, passing 5-0. Moving on to the next item, item number 4, the general manager's report.
Yep,
Colleen?
okay, so tomorrow then I guess we'll have a press release go out and I'll use one of your quotes. Joyce will send you a note so that we can let the public know officially. But yeah, go ahead.
No, emojis.
Oh,
count.
okay. Oh, all right. But I'm sad to say that Joyce is taking a job at another company for so we're going to be down some community relations, and I know she wanted me to thank everyone for their time at the RMLD. She's enjoyed working with everybody. She's done an awesome job, and we'll miss her. And also in the press release, though, will be the Kearsarge battery agreement if that gets approved tonight. So that's planning on going out tomorrow. So Bob, you're probably going to get an email from Greg if you want to take a look at it, make sure you're okay with the wording. Virtual elementary art contest held early in the month. It was great. Thanks to Phil, Bob, and Dave for participating. The kids' inspirational artwork as usual. High school art contest is due tomorrow, 3/25. So Joyce will send out a link to vote, same as last year, right? So we want to vote on that because we usually select one or more for the cover of the annual report. Just a reminder that board elections are going to be at the April 21st meeting. If that's the day we're going to have it, we appoint a chair, vice chair, and secretary. I sent you some language from policy 19. Cannot be appointed if up for re-election, and I believe Chair Coulter is the only one up for election in 2023. So that would be April 21st. Annual report. So Wendy is having the auditors come in. This is usually what happens every year. When you got my evaluation packet, what I try to do is put the front end in of what I'm going to put in the annual report. We'll add the construction highlights, and of course the audited financials will go in the back, and then that will be released. But Wendy, you're here, right? Auditors coming the week of.
Yes, they're coming April 4th.
April 4th. And so we're expecting maybe to get the annual report out by end of April, maybe beginning of May. Possibly. We have to have the finance, we have to have the audit committee, and then we have the board meeting, and then we approve, right?
I said hopefully May, yes.
Hopefully May, okay. Economic development meeting, Erica's tried really hard to get that going. It doesn't look like it's gonna happen until April due to March conflicts, possibly after the elections. That's on the economic development of the whole Eastern Gateway, Ash Street area. Additional meeting to discuss transformer bid, which Hamid's gonna talk about, supply chain. We're gonna need to have that before April 10th, because one of the bids has to go back, be, either awarded or not by April 11th, and possibly join the CAB meeting on April 4th at 6 p.m. if that works. So, I don't know if that's something everyone can do. We'll make it very short for the board. But if you, because when Hamid talks about the bid later and you see that it's gone past what the budgeted amount is, and we'll explain why, I have to go back to the CAB to get permission in order to do the bid. So it's kind of got to go to the CAB, then to you guys. So if you want to join that meeting, we can get that bid out.
Colleen, when did you say that meeting is?
April 4th at 6 p.m. if that works. Erica's still working to coordinate that, so she'll reach out to you, but that's kind of the reason why we need to do this. That's all I have.
All right. Moving on to item number 5. Action item, Mr. Phipps, if you could please.
Yes, I will share screen. And 2 topics tonight. One is, they're both follow-ups from the last 2 meetings. The first one, we'll talk about one of the battery storage projects, Fordham Road. I'll walk you through a little more details based on what we talked about before. You'll see a request for a motion after we walk through the battery storage. And then the other one, we'll talk a little about just wholesale energy cost snapshot. One of the requests that you guys had is a little bit more detail in terms of average costs. So I'll walk you through those 2 pieces. The first one will be the battery storage system. So as we talked about before, at the February meeting, is we were talking one of the 2 battery storage projects. This one is at the Fordham Road facility. It's an industrial site. That's a picture of the actual site itself. That array is about 2.1, almost 2.2 megawatts. It's been installed. It was installed about 3 years ago. It's actually part of our Solar Choice 2 program. The proposal on the table, the project on the table, is to add a 5 megawatt, 10 megawatt hour storage battery. It would be the same size as we have at our Station 3 to this particular site. Kearsarge would actually make the investment. They would operate it similar to the solar array as well. There's not a lot of operating to the solar array except maintenance of the panels, obviously. The battery system is somewhat similar. This particular project, the intention behind it is to manage our transmission and capacity cost. If you guys remember from the past discussions, capacity and transmission represent about 40% of our total all-in cost at RMLD, and so we work hard to put programs in place to reduce them. Battery storage is one mechanism that we look at and we use based on the success of our current battery system at Station 3. So same basic model. This is a cost avoidance model. In this particular case, you can see in that middle line there on the left-hand side, the cost average, the cost savings are about, with a battery system like this, is just under $1 million a year. Since we're not making the investment, we would share a higher portion of the savings with the project manager and project investor, which would be Kearsarge in this particular point in time. The reason we have that particular structure in which we are sharing a higher portion of the savings with a third party is they make the investment and they take the risk, both the technical risk and the core initial financial risk. So it's a balance in terms of who takes what risk and who's willing to take what risk. We like to own assets where we can, but in this particular case, this is a storage asset, and we think it's prudent to let that technology risk reside with a third party. We have some work to do, but we're basically at a point right now where we'll start working with the approval of you guys tonight, and then of course the CAB will have to approve on the 4th. So any approvals tonight will be contingent on the CAB, of course. Normal operating procedure, just a little bit out of sequence. But we'll, at that point in time, with that approval, we'll start drafting up a PPA agreement. Again, this will be a PPA structure. We'll call it an energy services agreement, but it'll be a PPA structure. We'll finish working on some of the interconnect analysis that Hamid and his team has already started. And then, of course, there'll be a lot of permitting and site access and safety, et cetera. So it won't be, if we give the confirmation tonight, it really won't be active until probably springtime of 2023, realistically. Net for RMLD, the savings will average about $200,000 a year. Again, no cost out, no negative, no downside for us. The recommendation that we have is to move forward with the project. And so I'll pause for a moment, see if there's any questions, and then ask for the motion.
I just had one question, Greg, that's, is Kearsarge handling all of the, like, leasing of the land and everything from Winton, and they've got all the insurance policies in place and everything?
Yeah, and that's, John, yes. So they're a very reputable organization. They've been around for quite some time. They've actually been doing this array and several others. And so, yeah, the way we have this one structure, the way that we're structuring this particular PPA is it'll be full turnkey. So they'll basically handle everything, and it'll basically be a financial transaction on our end. That includes, with systems like this, the batteries require augmentation. Basically, there's only so many cycles batteries have, so they have the responsibility for maintaining that 5 megawatt output. That'll be part of the agreement, just like we have with Station 3. But yeah, everything's full turnkey, bottom line.
So there's no liability associated with the RMLD?
No. And we'll make sure all the legal documents, like we've done in the past, that we not only they have the responsibility, but we've got it contractually as well. And this is, as you notice, it's an industrial site. So, we're obviously, when we talk about battery systems, always safety is a criteria, but it's particularly important. The nice thing, and this is an industrial site. So we want to make sure we stay away from residential areas for this particular configuration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Greg, one item on, usually they have like a tiered approach, right? So if you went up to the next level, what would it be, the risk reward type scenario?
Yeah, so there's two variables here. One is just the total size. So, to go up to potentially 10 megawatts or 7.5 megawatts, that actually creates more savings. But the bigger, in terms of the threshold, the other variable is to move from 10 megawatt hours to 15 megawatt hours. And that megawatt hours, the reason why that's important is the battery configurations are designed to discharge at this particular one. The 510 means it would discharge 5 megawatts for a 2-hour period. The next step up would be 5 megawatts for a 3-hour period, which would be a 5 by 15. The reason why you want to have a wider window, it would increase the probability of hitting the peaks. So hit more of the peaks, because again, this is a peak shaving model. So at the end of the day, the relative cost of going up and the net savings of going up to a 5 by 15 for this particular proposal, since we don't have the risk for it, this is what they're willing to put in, and from an economic perspective, we are, as we had mentioned back in December, we anticipate another 5 additional 5 megawatt blocks. So there'll be one site that'll be a 10 megawatt, 20 megawatt hour system. And then, as we'll talk a little later on, depending upon what we do on substations, we'll look at storage systems as well. And those could be another 10 megawatt, 20 megawatt hour system. So we kind of tailor it to the size of the location, the size of the load, and the dollars in terms of the financial return.
Chair, I have a quick question, if I may.
Sure, Dave.
So this works that they're obviously buying electricity to charge the battery, and then they're sort of selling it back to us. That's the meat of it.
Well, so it's actually we're not going to really, in this particular case, we're going to basically charge and discharge the battery. And the way the agreement is, we're basically renting under a service arrangement.
I see.
Access to the equipment. So from a buy sell perspective, it's what we typically would do, like we do with the current one. The state of charge, the resting state of charge tends to be somewhere between 20 and 50%, depending upon whose technology it is. So in the morning, when we know we're going to do a discharge late in the afternoon, we'll charge it up. And then we'll basically discharge it at the peak. So the charge discharge is it happens all in the course of the day. It typically happens within on-peak periods in terms of how we look at it. So the net cost is zero. There's an efficiency loss in terms of the charge discharge.
Yeah,
That's included in the model. But basically, we don't want to get into the, how much did we pay to charge and discharge? We just basically rent,
you're, and it's like you say, renting a battery.
Yeah, we're renting a box for all intents and purposes that,
Yeah.
and then. Yeah.
But you have full say over how often you charge it and how often you discharge it, or?
So in this particular deal, because we're doing a shared savings model, this one's a little bit, typically in terms of station 3, that's exactly, as you mentioned, that's exactly how we have full control. In this one, we're going to try a little different business model. Again, no risk to us, but we want to align ours, that last bullet right before the box, is we want them to take responsibility for the charge and discharge with some certain criteria in terms of when they can do it. But we want them to take the responsibility. And since part of the savings is shared with them, they're incented to maximize the savings. So that's, we're trying, that's the little subtlety of this particular one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting deal. I mean, how do you, it is very, very interesting and novel and, great. I'm just wondering, how do you evaluate these economics? Like, what do you look to assess the?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, what we did last time, we had a $300,000 savings number in there, and it was some of the modeling that they had done. And we had done some quick modeling, but we actually went back and took the experience that we have with our system, our system at Station 3, and over the past 3 years, and we took a little bit more conservative approach in terms of the hit rate. So you see item C down there, 85% hit rate, as opposed to 92 to 95. We also, the other thing here, item B is, not assuming that it was a full discharge in 1 hour. So if you notice, it's a 5 megawatt battery. And if you discharge it at, so that 3.4 and that 4.7 are basically the average of the number of times we've discharged over the past 3 years, where we've just discharged it for 1 hour versus 2 hours. And the same thing here. So there's just some analysis in terms of how average, how long we discharge it to make sure we hit the peak. And then obviously the other key thing is what we assume for the cost of transmission and capacity. So there's a bunch of variables that go into it. At the end of the day, what we want to make sure we do is that we have no net, worst case, it's a zero-sum game for us, is the worst case. And that's how so that's why, in order to put a little more risk on them, so it's no downside for us, we give a little bit more of the savings for them. And we'll see how it plays out. But this is a little different model, as you mentioned, and we're trying to see which one's going to work out best. But the basic economics are based on our experience.
I see. So it's not like a third party advising you about examples around the country.
Not in this one. No, we've got direct experience. I mean, we're literally,
Greg, I have one question on your projected life. It looks like all you've done is taken the annual cost and multiplied it by 20 years.
Yeah, I've done discounted cash flow.
In the present value on these numbers, that didn't look like you factored in the present value.
Yeah, so Phil, we didn't actually go back and do net present value because we would have done, the question is now going to be what's going to be the right discount value. It's going to be 7%, 10%, 2%. We could play with it. The working assumption is that on the savings is that the transmission cost, if they're going to go, so these transmission costs of 5% and 2% are on the low end. And if inflation hits a little bit higher, those two costs are going to go along with inflation. So yeah, we could have done a little more complicated value, but you're right. At the end of the day, it's going to be about a 23% net savings for us. And it'll be at least $200,000 a year in current dollars.
Bob, can I add something quick?
Yes, please.
Just to go back to what Dave said, we do have a third party. They're not related specifically to our generation battery, but they do help us with calling day ahead peaks.
Oh, yeah.
So I wasn't sure if that's what you meant by third party, but they don't control it. But the day ahead peak analysis that we pay them to do is very helpful for 85% or higher on the peak for the transmission and capacity. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you. I just meant a deal like this, that there's people in the industry who might have done things like this and
Oh,
give you an independent review of but it's fine. I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, no, we're actually in parallel with this, is we're doing, a station 3, we're doing a little RFI for station 3, and that model will be where we would do similar to what we're doing with station 3 right now. But again, we've got 8 parties that we've been in discussions with in terms of models, in terms of dollars. So we know the dollars are in the right place.
They actually call us for our expertise.
Some of them
They
do.
call us.
It's true. I
So-
mean, with the second MLP with a big battery, right?
Yeah. The batteries, I mean, they're not perfect. They're part of the puzzle. And, again, because the cost of capacity and transmission is so significant, we need to do it. We need to take actions like this. Anyways, there you go.
Mr. Chair, could I ask a question?
Yes, please. Melanie.
Greg, in the presentation slide here, I'm still confused on the first line that says initial investment is 0, and then the next line is avoided costs. Could you just describe that to me differently?
Yeah. So in order to put the asset in place, to put the battery in place, to do all the site prep, to do all the connections, to buy the batteries themselves, the software to control it, Kearsarge will basically make that multi-million-dollar investment. And then what we would do, what we'll basically is that battery will be discharged during peak hours. And so I didn't put that chart into this, but so basically our cost of transmission and our cost of capacity are charged to us by the TOs and by ISO New England for transmission and capacity respectively by 2 factors. One is what is the rate at that particular point in time, which are set by external factors to us. And then the second variable is what is our load during that peak hour. And so the one thing that we can control as RMLD is put programs in place where during that peak hour, we reduce our load. In this particular case, it would be on average, reducing our load by 3.4 megawatts for transmission and 4.7 megawatts for capacity using this piece of equipment. So we would end up paying on average, between $900 and $1 million a year less because our peak load was lower during that peak hour. And so it's avoided cost. If we didn't put the battery in, we will be spending roughly $1 million more a year for capacity and transmission. We put it in, it's that much less. And we're going to basically share, a little more, roughly 3/4 of it with the person who puts the dollars in and manages it. And we're going to basically keep 25% of it. Follow? So that's why there's no capital investment for us. It's avoided cost. And then that base cost and shared savings, that red line is a cost to us. So when we actually realize those savings, we're going to share 3/4 of it with them, and we're going to keep the balance.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, so this one's different. It's not a revenue. There's not revenue coming in. It's basically cost savings, avoided costs, which we can track because we have all the data. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this point, do you need a motion to approve this or what?
Yes, please.
Are you ready for the motion, Mr. Chair? Maybe you are. Okay, I'll read it anyway. Move that the Board of Commissioners, contingent on the recommendation of the Citizens Advisory Board, vote to accept the General Manager's recommendation to contract with Kearsarge Energy under an energy storage PPA with shared savings associated with a new 5 MW 10 NWH battery system to be installed at a Fordham Road, Wilmington. It says we probably should put Mass in there, Mass site, pending final interconnection study and appropriate permitting.
Second,
Ms.
How would
Pacino,
I-
aye?
just step back, aye.
Marlena Beta, aye.
You've got quiet on us, Bob. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, great. And then the other thing that we had talked about before, when we present the various power supplies, I indicate, because we don't share publicly the actual contract values for confidentiality reasons. But I wanted to give, I talk about it being 45% more, 70% more, 80% more, et cetera. I wanted to lay out for you this, just to give you a general sense of what our wholesale energy cost looks like. And there's two key takeaways for this particular slide. One is that, so this, just a big picture, this purple line here, as you can see, it says all RMLD. These are all of our current contracts, okay? And these are basically in dollars per megawatt hour. This is just the energy portion. There's no capacity, there's no transmission. So just the energy portion of these. Our total energy cost is in the range of $90 to $103, $104 a megawatt hour, depending upon what month it is. There's a whole bunch of variables that go into that range. But this is just the energy portion, which goes back to what source do we use? Solar versus wind versus hydro versus nuclear. And so these are basically to give you an idea of how they all look next to each other. So across the bottom here is 2022 to 2042, a little 20-year window. This dark blue, navy blue kind of black line that says open market is basically the cost of electricity or energy, I should say, on the wholesale market. You'll see that it's fairly high in 2022. It dips down to 2024, 25, and then starts rolling back up again. This high point right now is as you guys probably read in the news, these are kind of the open market costs. There's a whole bunch of factors. It's not just the recent Russia-Ukraine war. It's been going back. It's going back tied to COVID and combination of coal and natural gas, a whole bunch of factors. But the point being is that this general line of open market is above our average line, which is all the contracts, this purple line here, all RMLD. That's the first key takeaway, is that we work hard with our ability to structure long-term contracts. And if you remember back a year ago, we talked about the contrast with IOUs where they do 6-month blocks. We can do 10, 20, 30-year contracts. And the reason we want to do those is because given the new climate law, there is strong confidence through us and most of the all of the market that the prices are going up. So that's part of the reason why we wanted to continue, and we've done quite a bit, obviously, as you guys know, and thank you for all the support of securing contracts for solar and wind and hydro and nuclear. So a couple other things just to walk. There's a lot of data here. You guys know that on the IRD side, we do a lot of data analytics. Again, we don't ever touch the electricity, but we transact a lot of it. The other thing to just keep in mind in this chart is the dark green lines are the net cost, and the dashed line are the current contract cost. And the difference between those two, if you just look at my mouse, this green line versus the dotted green line versus the solid green line, this is basically the sale of certificates tied to that particular resource. Well, these are each one of these lines are basically a combination of contracts. So when we think about our net energy cost, we're really looking at the solid lines. But just so you guys know, a couple things, you'll see that over time, the solid line merges with this dotted line. And the reason for that is our policy 30 and the climate law, 2021 climate law, which basically causes us to retire more and more of our certificates in terms of associated power. So ultimately, we get to a point as we get further out where the solid line and the dotted line are together because we're retiring certificates and not selling certificates. A couple other just key takeaways. Again, these are all our current contracts. Wind is, we like all of the different mix. We talked about the intermittent nature and the benefits of each one of these different types of power. But you can see here, nuclear is the lowest cost. And again, the reason you see the jagged nature of these are when contracts start and stop. And obviously there's some contracts that you guys approved last year, that we negotiated last year, that will come into play in 23, 24, 25, 26. And we actually have 2 that come in play in 30 and 31. But you can see nuclear is down here. It's an important part of the portfolio. It's 24/7. We like that. The hydro and the solar are interesting in terms of the relative cost of those. Over time, you can see how solar is less expensive when we actually sell rather than retire the certificates. But once we start retiring all the certificates, you can see how solar becomes a little bit more expensive than hydro. And then wind right now, we don't have a lot of wind contracts in our portfolio. We have a couple of new ones that we added, and we have a couple that go back to 2011. But wind is a little bit more expensive resource. The offshore wind is probably going to bring, when we have a chance to actually put those contracts into our portfolio, we'll probably bring this wind line, closer down to the 70 to 80, somewhere in this range. But all in all, a couple of key takeaways. One is our contracts are lower than open market, and that's a good thing, and we're going to continue that. There's stability associated with those contracts because these go out a long basis, and we need the mix of them. And over time, the ability to sell those certificates goes away, and the net cost of retiring certificates are built into these numbers as well. So that's kind of just a big picture. There's a lot of data behind it. It's we find charts like this pretty fascinating. We use this data when we do all of the contracts. When we analyze all of the opportunities. We're looking at some more now that we'll present to you in the next month or the month after. Anyways, that's just a quick summary. Any questions? All right, so I know we have a bit full agenda, so that's all for me. I will return back to you.
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you, Greg. I thank you. I know Caroline Fisher has joined the meeting. Would anybody object? Hello, Caroline. How are you?
I'm very good.
Thank you. Would anybody object if we moved her agenda item forward and then would allow her to leave and not listen to us for the next 2 hours and then continue forward? Would that be acceptable to everybody?
Certainly.
Fine with me.
Okay. All right. So I will move down. So again, Caroline, thank you very much for joining. We're all looking forward to what you have to say. So please go right ahead.
Okay, well, thank you for having me this evening. And frankly, I love power organizations board meetings. So if it was 2 hours of my sitting and listening, that would be just fine. And I thoroughly enjoyed that last presentation, by the way. After 25 years, I have come to love the power industry and everything that goes into it. So anyway, for this evening, it's my pleasure to be with you to chat briefly about the use of a culture survey within RMLD at this point in time. As background, and I'm not sure how much you have been introduced to me or my work with Colleen and the team to this point in time. However, I am what they would call a culture and leadership consultant and facilitator. I've had the privilege of helping organizations with culture and leadership for most of my adulthood, over 25 years. In the early years, I and my company, we focused on large publicly traded power companies in particular. So did a lot of work from the top to the front lines of Duke and Southern Cal Edison and Texas Utilities, then to become TXU, Florida Power and Light, and a whole range. And then in the early 2000s, it was smaller power organizations found us, in particular the rural electric cooperatives, of which they had us at hello pretty much. We've now worked with over 80 rural electric cooperatives, as well as quite a host of municipals, walking the culture and leadership path in an industry that has been changing rapidly all the way along, which of course then begs the need for culture changes inside of the organization in order to keep up with what's happening on the outside of the organization, whether it's customer demands or changes in the industry, technologies, that sort of thing. We've now worked in 42 different countries around the world. So our job is to bring to any of our clients what we've learned as it applies to you and the culture of your organization, your unique path that you are traveling. And the thing, just briefly, the thing about culture is that every organization has one. Every time you put two or more people together, a culture begins to emerge. The only question is, Is it by design or is it by default? So we've all, I'm sure, looking on my screen, we have all had plenty of work experiences and plenty of opportunities to be in organizations that had sort of culture by default. The culture had emerged and that's the way we do things, and maybe it doesn't work so well, but we keep doing it. Just a little additional, so that you know, the culture of an organization, it's not soft stuff, it's not esoteric, it's not housed within HR. The culture of the organization is the way the organization works together as it's traveling to accomplish its business objectives and goals. It's actually directly linked to everything that you measure. And it is measurable. Culture is manageable. It is changeable. And culture starts at the top, but importantly for any organization and any board to know is it doesn't end at the top, because everyone throughout the organization, as you all have observed and could attest, everyone in the organization is impacting the culture. So the first step on any sort of this is interesting, wonder what the culture of our organization is. The first step is taking a snapshot. It's actually gathering data. It's actually seeing, where is your culture today? Not good or bad, just what is it today? So that then we can make some informed choices about where do we go from here? What types of leadership and management practices are needed? What seems to be working and serving us? We want to keep it. And then what are those areas that probably, in order to sustain going forward, we need some bolstering? I will acknowledge right up front that sometimes when you're going through challenges, as every organization does, it can feel like, wow, our culture is really messed up. It can feel that way. But is it? You don't really know. What's going right? It's so easy to gravitate to either loud voices or the things that are obvious that maybe are not going so right. But it's through the collection of data in the organization that you can actually level set, and you can see through data what, and through the voices of your people, you can see what is serving our future, and then what are those things that we need to address. And especially in times of transition or leadership transition, is oftentimes when a board or an organization knows this is the time to take a culture snapshot. And then we've got data to work with. So I had promised Colleen that I would just quickly bring you up to speed on a proposal in the organization, which is to take a culture snapshot and just to see where we are with the culture, especially in some times of change that are happening at this point in time. So with that, I'll go ahead and I'll share my screen with you. And this will be brief, but it will give you a sense of what we're talking about and why on earth we would do it now in terms of a culture assessment. I will just simply welcome you to the next step on the journey forward. Every organization is on a journey, if you're lucky enough to still be in the arena. And that journey is comprised of one chapter after another, after another. And the challenge is, which aspects of culture past are we trying to take forward with us, and it's not working very well. So as you move into the ensuing chapters, eyes wide open about the culture, and because many of the things just habitually we take forward that are no longer serving our purposes, and we need to be aware of that. So just very briefly here in the next few minutes, I want to make sure we have a shared language about what culture is and why it matters, then introduce you to the model, the tool, the window we use to look through to understand what your culture is at this point in time. So that then as you're planning and moving forward, whether it's from a personnel standpoint, a leadership standpoint, or other changes in the organization, you can do it in a targeted way, in a planful way. And then I'll introduce you to the assessment that actually all employees participate in. where they get to have a voice, where you get to look through their eyes at what is the current state of the culture. And I promise you, there's a lot of good stuff going on, as well as some things that probably need to be adjusted. Just to talk about culture, we better define it first. Again, it's not esoteric, it's not touchy-feely, it's not out there in the ether. It's simply the way things get done around here. So, for instance, do we know where we're going? Do we have some windshield view or future view? Do we have some strategies in place? Do we have goals defined to support those strategies? And then importantly, are people in the organization able to align themselves towards those goals so their work is purposeful, so their work is meaningful? Do they have line of sight from where they are to something that we're intending to occur tomorrow? How do we communicate? Do we only communicate within our teams or divisions or silos, or do we communicate in ways that actually create real work results, which is across the silos that can appear in any organization? What do we do when mistakes are made? What do we do in terms of developing our people? How do we make decisions? All those sorts of things. Those are all part of the way things get done around here. And that's all that we're measuring. And sort of why. It's funny because when I started my career, I was doing culture work, though businesses didn't really talk about culture. And we knew it was relevant. We knew it linked with business performance, but most managers were like, and this is important because why? Boy, has time changed. Can't even read a story about a company without, or an organization or a sports team without some mention of the culture coming into the conversation. And here we just have some of the reasons why businesses and organizations are clamoring for culture support. The customer needs, the changes in the industry, the need to be efficient and effective, attracting and retaining the great employees, because apparently they will not stay anymore unless there's some sort of an effective culture. Innovation, and actually the bottom bullet's my favorite, just the desire to be all we can be as an organization. So what we're measuring in the culture tells us how are you positioned to actually move forward on those fronts right there. And another reason we focus on culture is because working harder, it's not that much fun. And in today's world, it might not get you there anyway. It really is about working differently. And you all can speak to this. You're all aware that that's true. Another reason that we focus on culture, that organizations everywhere, is that, and especially through the pandemic, there was a real separation that occurred in organizations. And organizations naturally sort of gravitate to what I call the small we, which is my department versus your department, my level versus your level, my team versus your team. And focusing on your culture is about bolstering what we call the bigger we. That is, where are we as RMLD going? And how will we all play a role in that? So long and short, this is Culture 101. Your culture is active every moment of every day. It's either supporting your success or it's making it harder to go forward. And of course, at RMLD, just like any organization, there's sort of the 30,000-foot view of your culture, which is sort of what you would see maybe if you were up in a plane or maybe even on the moon looking down on RMLD. You would see cultural patterns that occur across the organization that would be consistent. Then you also have subcultures, subcultural differences that it's good to understand, either level to level or division to division. You want to see where's the culture similar and where is it different, so the best support can be provided in moving forward. And that brings us to, what window do we look through to understand what the culture is? Well, what we know today is there's 4 overriding aspects, or I should say underlying aspects, of any culture, whether it's a very small organization or a very large organization. There are 4 components at play. One is the upper right-hand corner, the red quadrant. That's your direction. That is absolutely where your culture starts, because where you're going, form following function, where you're going would then dictate what kind of culture do you need? What kind of clarity do we have about that direction? Not just at the top of the organization, but throughout the organization. Do we have a windshield view of any sort that we share? Vision, strategies, goals, that sort of thing. Culture doesn't end there, though. Then we toggle down to the lower left-hand quadrant, which that's all about the engagement of our people, the alignment of our people towards where we're going. Do they have the capabilities that they need to serve where we're trying to go? How do they work in teams? And is 1 + 1 = 3? And to what degree are people empowered to bring their best to work each day? That's an aspect of your culture. In the blue quadrant, then, is our ability to adapt. And you'll notice the customers right in the middle of that. And in the lower right-hand corner is consistency. Those are the systems and processes in the organization that allow us to move forward in an efficient and focused way. Now, through a simple set of questions that people respond to, they actually let us look through their eyes at what their experience of the culture is. And sometimes it's different from division to division or from level to level. That tells you a lot. And the survey itself, what is it measuring? It's measuring behaviors and how we do things day in and day out. It's also measuring to what degree are we behaving in alignment with the things that matter: reliability, quality, safety, employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction, innovation, and the many things that we measure. It's a 60-item survey that then we add customized questions to based on where you're at on your journey. And we provide your scores back in a percentile fashion so you can see where you sit in relation to other functioning organizations like yours. And there is anonymity of the responses. We implement the survey on our end with utmost confidentiality and anonymity. That our computer doesn't even allow a breach of anonymity or confidentiality. I couldn't even see who said what. It provides the data in aggregated form so that we can see the patterns and themes that are occurring, because it's the patterns and themes upon which you can take action. And generally, we have the scaled questions that are on basically a scale of 1 to 5. 5 is strong, 1 is weak. And then we add in some written questions as well, because it's the written input that tells us so much. Because again, it's pretty hard to really have your finger on the pulse in terms of what's really going on in the organization. And I will come right out and say, this isn't per se an employee satisfaction survey. This isn't a happiness survey. This is a culture survey, which is really measuring to what degree are we set up to function safely and to function reliably and with quality as we move forward. And basic goals of the survey process simply include: what are the current strengths and what are some of our weaknesses or our areas that we probably should shine the flashlight on in order to get stronger? And importantly, if say, for example, we're not communicating across the organization, we're only communicating within our silos, we want to know what's driving that. Or if there's a lack of clarity in terms of where we're going, we want to understand what's blocking that. If change is difficult in the organization, it's not just random, something's causing the struggle with change. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking to operate at a root cause level. And then ultimately, because it's always, so what, now what? So we have some survey data, where do we go from here? It's about then understanding what are not those 50 things that we could focus on to improve, but what are those few high leverage areas that if we just made movement in those would actually get the flywheel turning in some new ways. It goes without saying that a process like this, it opens up lines of communication and also has the opportunity to improve teamwork and relationships because you're opening up the lines of communication. And there is, most organizations would say, there is an opportunity to move closer to the right side of that page than the left side of that page, because we're coming together and talking about how we're doing what we're doing in service of the future. And so with that, then, before I come back to discussion, what I'd like to do is show you very briefly what the questions look like and what a survey report looks like. Then let's come back and we can talk about it. And you'll get this as well following the session. I felt like I'd be remiss if I didn't simply show you a sample survey report. And the sample report would look like this. This happens to be an organization of, you'll see in the lower right-hand corner, N of 214 people. We have as low as N of 6, as high as N of, I think, 280,000 was our largest culture survey that we ever implemented. Of course, broken down into a lot of segments to see subcultures. But this would be the overall organization in this case. And what you can see here, simply by looking at that red quadrant, is they're more short-term focused in that red quadrant through goals and objectives than they are longer-term focused through vision, goals, 10 points higher than the vision. That tells us something. What you can see down in the green in the involvement quadrant is that their teams seem to be pretty strong. However, look at empowerment, and the degree of empowerment is less than the sense of team strength. But what we're mostly concerned about is the capability development score there, where we're not developing capabilities to the degree that we're empowering people, which of course could be a safety concern, a reliability concern. So capability most likely would be an area for this organization to focus on. In adaptability, in the blue, what you can see is our customer focus is much less strong than our creating change, which would beg the question, if we're changing, shouldn't we be aligning that change with perhaps what our customers are looking for or what they need? And then in the yellow quadrant, what you can see is the core values are pretty high, but their coordination, integration, that ability to work across those silos, not so much. So that's the snapshot that you get. And this happens to be a power organization here. I tried to pull a comparable sample to show you. And then what you can see, each page is actually broken down by the survey questions that are asked. The red page is the red quadrant. That's the mission quadrant. And there's 5 questions that are asked within each of the slices of that pie: strategic direction, goals and objectives, and vision. And then the same would be of the yellow quadrant: core values, agreement, coordination, integration, which you can see that each line item that people respond to also gets a score. So you can hone it right down to very specific things that we want to bolster. Empowerment, or the involvement quadrant. And again, it's the same. There are 5 questions appearing in each slice of the pie or culture index. And then the blue as well. And on the final page of the survey, what you get is kind of the 5 highest line item scores and the 5 lowest line item scores, which also tells you a lot. However, I don't only gravitate to this page because sometimes strengthening a mid-tier score is actually going to give you the biggest lift. So, but we go through all of that together in debriefing it and unpacking it. And then you'll have some customized questions that are designed just for you and things that you want to pay attention to in your organization, and those would appear on an additional page. Now, with that, then what I want to do is actually take us off of, we didn't have a whole lot of time scheduled for today. I want to take us off of the screen and just have a conversation then about this process and the benefits of doing this process at this point in time. And we're still in the process of customizing the survey for you so that the questions are in your language, measuring constructs and concepts that you use in each of these culture categories. And
Could I make a comment, please, Mr. Chair?
yes.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Caroline. And Caroline, great presentation, and I'm very, very familiar with it, coming out of the consulting industry with Deloitte and whatnot, and it's really super important for the culture. I think at this point in time, my own personal opinion is that we're facing a general manager who is leaving shortly, and I don't think it's appropriate at this point to be doing this without a new general manager in place. So I would like to hold off on the rest of your presentation and your discussion, just my personal opinion, until we get someone, a new person on board who's going to be taking over the reins from Colleen, because they might have very different ideas about what to do, how to proceed, et cetera. So if you don't mind, that's just my suggestion, and I don't know if anyone else agrees or disagrees with that.
Mr. Chair.
Yep, please, Dave.
I do tend to agree with John on that. I mean, I would like to see what the survey questions are. That was a lot of general terms there, sort of HR soft terms. I don't want to say jargon, but like, what's the actual survey instrument? I think we asked for this last June, and it's like we're almost in April. So I would just like to see a survey instrument, and then we can decide as a commission how we like the instrument and whether we do it sooner or later. I agree, though. I think we can move on tonight, but I would, as part of that, would like to just see what the draft survey instrument is. We've had 10 months of talking about this. Let's get the survey instrument and then probably wrap it up. Thank you. Do we have a survey instrument that we can look at?
We do. It's in the process of being customized into your language right now, and some of the areas that you might want to focus on. I might add as well, I thoroughly agree that that would be weird to do a culture survey when a general manager is stepping out, and that it's my responsibility to share with you how the point of view in organizations has changed so drastically about that in fact, there's so much transition happening with CEOs and general managers at this point in time that most organizations feel like the time to capture, when there's a transition happening, the time to capture the most current state is before the new CEO comes on, so that new CEO can hit the ground running and have the benefit of the data and know what he or she is working with. And if that doesn't happen, then what's recognized is it'll probably be another year before any sort of valid data can be collected, because once the new CEO arrives, there's all kinds of dynamics that begin, which one is confusion. One is we don't know where we're going. We don't know what this guy or gal is going to be focusing on. And it's very difficult. And I just share with you because I've seen such a change in that mentality in my consulting service in the last 10 years in particular, that we're doing a lot of surveys that are really sort of chapter end surveys for the benefit of whoever steps in that role when they do.
So if I may just follow up quickly, Mr. Chair. So great. That's a good point. I would like to see, even if it's incomplete and you're anticipating another 4 or 5 questions, surely it wouldn't take too long to wrap those up, but even if it did, to see where does it stand now? What are the potential 4 or 5 extra questions? And just send it along to us, and then we can think about
Absolutely.
it. And at our next meeting or whenever, we can decide what and when to do with it. And we take your point about, maybe it's good to do this at the end. That's a good point. So we can think about that. And just so I'm clear, though, the report you would deliver is merely those quantitative slides with those terms. There's not a narrative that you produce?
There is, you receive all of the line item scoring. And as well, then I do a debrief with you. I walk you through what does it all mean.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And what the a written narrative is provided, which is the summary of the written responses. You don't see the written responses verbatim, but you see sort of the summary of those along with my recommendations to the board in particular, which can sometimes benefit your consideration of a new CEO or general manager as well.
Mr. Chair.
Definitely. Yes, please,
Okay.
Marlena.
Thank you, Caroline, for the presentation. How long does it take an employee to complete the survey that it looks really detailed?
It generally takes, depending how much people write, which it's always surprising how much
Sure.
people, when they have written comments, the opportunity, how much they write, generally takes between 12 and 15 minutes. We have a timer that goes, so we know actually how
Okay.
much time is being taken. So it's between 12 and 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Follow-up questions. Participation is key. How you promote participation, and that's education up front of the survey. You got to get into, all right, we're going to give a survey. We want you to take it. We want you to take it. So that would be on the RMLD
Absolutely.
staff to penetrate that through to everybody, the importance of it. But to John's point, I think we'll have to discuss that as a board. I'm in favor of moving forward with the survey as fast as possible. We've been talking about it for a long time. I'd like to get it executed and get in people's hands because we have talked about it, and we'll always have a bad time. It doesn't matter. So go forward. But again, we could bring that'll be us to decide. But as soon as we can have something to look at, and those customized questions. So on the feedback, we don't see verbatim responses that people write in.
You see, in order to protect anonymity and confidentiality, the written data is it can be handled in two ways. Some organizations choose to not actually see word by word what everybody has written. Now, I'm not in any way prevented from providing that to you. They choose to do that so that they feel they are accountable to anonymity and confidentiality. I summarize it for you. However, in many organizations, as long as there's no personal identification in that written data and there's no names attached, and we're careful about that, then the written data absolutely can be provided to you so you can see exactly what people said without your being able to identify who they might have been. And to your point as well, communication around the implementation survey is utmost and foremost. We actually provide a lot of counsel on that. Managing the meaning of the survey is paramount. Why are we doing a survey? What's the intent of the survey? How will the data be used? Who's going to see the data? We call it managing the meaning. And so please know that we know that is our job in order to gain the most valid data possible.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, so a little bit of history. In the distant past, the commission did do a survey way in the distant past, and we basically did nothing with it. And it really had a very negative effect on the employees from the feedback we got. So, I agree with Dave that we need to see in advance. And I also am concerned with, the way John brings up the fact that we're now in the process of changing the general manager and whether this is the best time to do this or not. I think maybe if we see the questions, maybe we get a better idea at this point.
Exactly.
At this point. But, I'm also concerned that we need to definitely have a plan and not have something that's just going to throw in a drawer somewhere. I mean, I doubt we'll do that, but we just need to make sure we have a plan and for some sort of follow-up that'd be involved. Thank you.
Caroline, I'll get back to you. Closing? If you have any more.
Absolutely. Just thank you for the time. I am available to offer any additional information, communication. You can bet it's important that you see the survey questions. So Colleen and I will be making sure that those get put in your hands. And Yes, and I'm happy to talk with any of you further, either individually or collectively.
Well, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome to stick around. It gets more exciting from here on with party time for the next 2 hours, so you're welcome to stay on.
Excellent. Okay, well, I think I'll leave you to your own devices. I'll sign off, and Colleen and Erica will be
Yeah,
in touch.
thank you.
And
I
Janet?
just,
Yes.
it was so, you sent the questions, like I said, maybe you could send a blurb as to what can be customized or what the board can add. So that if they want to add questions, they can send them back to you, something like that.
Sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely.
And I just want to clarify, I don't want to make Carolyn feel bad, but we did talk about doing a survey in June when I got assigned my goals, but the goal is actually hire a consultant to develop an employee survey to be conducted in early 2022. So this is exactly what we're doing. So even though we talked about it when my goals got set up, it was something that was scheduled for right around now. Of course, we didn't know I was leaving, but I think we're on target. And, you know, thank you, Carolyn, for reaching back out to me so quickly. And I would think we're on schedule. I just want to make sure you don't feel like we're already behind. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Have a nice evening, everyone.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, moving on to item number 6, supply chain update. If you could, please, Hamid.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to make my presentation short in the interest of time, since the two boards we're going to meet on this particular issue to discuss the crisis and problems. So I'm just going to go over the main topic and main slides, the 3 slides to tell the story, see what's going on, so we get a snapshot of the present situation. So speaking of that, let me see if I can put that on. Sorry, just 1 second. If I can get this phone, that would be great. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great, super. Thank you so much. Let me get started. That the pandemic has accelerated, the COVID crisis actually accelerated the supply chain crisis globally. Many people, they took the supply chain for granted, but today the manufacturers, warehouses, transportation providers, and distribution centers and retailers are all topics of the mainstream media, basically. For the shortage of the materials and the labor and everything. I'm sure you've all heard about it. So the times are changing. So is the supply chain. The experts in the field, they're predicting that this problem could go beyond 2025, which is requiring some advanced planning in order to make sure that we can go through this crisis successfully, and we can maintain our business continuity. So just to show you a snapshot of what's going on, you see over here on this slide, we just had a transformer bid opening last week. And as you could see on the left type of the transformers, and you see on the second column, the average prices from the last bid that, in 2021. And the last week prices, we were really shocked because we could see that, definitely the type of how much increase the materials have gone up. Actually, they've gone up as high as 528% in some cases, in some materials. And this is only the transformer sector. So challenges are brought on us for the materials that we use on a daily construction and using from the day-to-day for maintenance, for capital improvement projects, and also the programs that we have in place.
Delivery time.
And the time.
Can you go back?
Yeah.
Please.
Lead time on these, they are really, it could go as much as, as you could see, it used to be from 18 to 32 weeks. And now we're talking about 22 to 102 weeks. And even the manufacturers, they cannot really commit on the delivery time. In other words, and another thing that, it's really complicated, makes it more complicated. So at the time of the bid, they're going to give you the base price, but they cannot commit to that price because they're going to say that, well, at the time of the order or delivery, there's going to be a additional cost being added, and we're going to let you know what that delta factor would be, which is creating another challenge of its own for the bidding and meeting the MGL laws as far as the bidding concerns. So this is the first one. The second slide, as you could see over here, the impact on us and how would it impact. Right now, we have approximately 4,000 transformers in the system. Our strategy is to have 10% of the number of the transformers in the system have it available in the stock. Most municipals, they don't even have that, but this is our strategy in order to keep 10% so we can carry through the end of the year at least. So limited transformer supply, it's going to impact all kind of projects that we actually put in the budget last year. That's H transformer replacement program, the underground area upgrades, 13 kV step down upgrades, and to give you a snapshot of how long this supply is going to last us. We anticipate the supply lasts us through November until November, maybe December at the end of the year with proper management. So as a result of that, I decided to go back to my graduate management training and do a little research and see that, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to manage this crisis? We need basically to develop business mitigation plans and the solutions that include some kind of business continuity plan, increasing the resilience in supply chain, tap into different suppliers to see that which one would be the best one ready to go in the case of emergencies, do the risk management analysis, intelligent order management, better managing our stock and inventory and ordering, and intelligent workflow. The supply chain, really the cost is directly related to the cost of the materials, and the materials that you use in our business, mostly they're oil, which it could go up as much as 59%. The carbon steel, aluminum has increased by 50%. The freight charges, which are up approximately about 44%. Labor is another 13.5%, and electrical steel approximately 25% gone up. So that's going to have impact on the way that we're going to move forward with the project, and we need to strategize and change our strategy on using these supplies in order to make it through the end of the year. That if the delivery is going to be delayed, and so as we have started seeing some of that, and the problem is spreading fast from transformer manufacturers all the way to cable and also other products. So we are seeing that they keep delaying the delivery time and increasing the prices in at least for 2022, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. So what is our new strategy? Before, we needed to inspect all the underground transformer system-wide 700 annually and replace approximately anywhere between 100 to 180 transformers per year. So with the new strategy, we're going to reprioritize the transformer replacement. And the way we're going to do that, we're going to meet the age and overloaded conditions and physical condition matrix. We have a matrix set up for that, which is going to determine that in what order of priority we're going to change out those. And also, we're going to only change the transformers that are leaking or seeping oil for the emergencies. So the transformers that are coming back from the constructions that we're going through with the capital improvement, we might have to just keep them in stock for refurbishment, and that's part of the new strategy to send them to these companies that they're in upstate New York, Texas, and also there is another one in Midwest. Tapping to those resources, and rather than just disposing those transformers, we're just going to have to send them to be refurbished and have them to be available to us until we go through this crisis and this crisis end, which is not going to be anytime soon. So the utilization category for the transformers It's going to be focusing mostly on the maintenance related on the H transformers, approximately 25%. The capital projects and new businesses that we can't just stop providing service on the transformers for the new residences and also the commercial industrial customers, 10%. But mostly we're going to save the transformers for the emergencies and overloaded the transformers, and the ones that the safety is really a big factor. It plays an important role in that. The projection is that we're not going to be replacing 180 transformers this year, but we're going to be replacing probably less than 100, and the market price volatility, which is going to be evaluate the bulk cooperative MLPs effort. So we're trying to reach out to the other MLPs and see that if they're willing to join us to open up a slot for the big order of the transformers, rather than going for 100 transformers. If we could go out with 1,000 transformers, number one, we're going to get better pricing. And number two, they're going to take us more seriously, and we're going to have to open up a slot, and when we're competing with the big IOUs, National Grid and Eversource. So these are the things that we're thinking, and we are going to modify our strategy as the market is changing and it's getting tougher and tougher. So this is going to be just a snapshot of telling you what we're going to do, where we are, and where we're going with it. And then, I'm going to get more into details at the special meetings that we're going to have to talk more about this. We might have to, for this order, double up the order of the transformers, because if the transformers, they're going to come in 102 weeks from now, that means you're talking about 2 years. And, we need to beef up our order now, maybe, which is going to, we didn't anticipate this. We have in the budget about $700,000 for the transformers that is going to apply for the material for the maintenance, for capital projects and emergencies. And now, based on the last bid, we almost 1.2 million over what we budgeted. So it's going to have an impact on the budget. It's going to have an impact on implementing projects. And we are down only to doing absolute what it needs to be. And, not going, aggressively with, of the capital planning, rebuilding areas and here, there, until, this situation is getting better. And, we can get the materials in a better sense. So that's it. That's what I have. Unless if you have any questions, I have more we can talk about if you have any questions. But, I would rather to save the time because we got busy agenda for the.
Mr. Chair, I just had one question, or actually, if I could, actually I had two. One is National Grid facing the same kinds of things? And secondly, I'm kind of interested, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, I really don't, but what is the root cause for this? I mean, inflation is going up 6% or 7%, but that's nowhere near 500% or 200, 300%. Is this because these things are outsourced in some foreign country and not manufactured in the United States? I mean, lithium I could understand because we're just getting installed in that, but copper and other things, I mean, they're indigenous to the United States, so I don't understand it.
Let me explain to you. I searched for that too. The cause that really the supply chain crisis is caused by backlogs across major supply chain hubs. And one of those hubs is the port of Los Angeles and Long Beach, which accounts for 40% of the shipping containers entering into the US. And they have already started operating in 3 shifts to relieve supply chain bottleneck. And, they have trouble even, to go there to release those containers from the custom, and then transportation is another one. A lot of truckers, they have trouble, the trucking industry is going through crisis. They can't find even drivers. I mean, they're giving bonuses to the drivers so they can come in and, deliver the materials. So lots of delay in the materials being delivered to the manufacturers. And, and every time the manufacturers, they go, because, we got limited also suppliers for the steel and materials in the United States. So lots of those materials are being imported from India, China, and, countries abroad. that we have to rely on shipping them and, bringing them to the US. And, just the COVID, this is the COVID has really had a serious impact on the delivery and also supplying the materials. The demand is high and the supply is low. And that's what's driving some of the costs up. So basically, this is it.
Okay, thank you, Hamid.
Welcome.
It's absolutely real. We're in the same exact boat, and it hit like a ton of bricks. It wasn't like, you're plodding along, and you had a couple things here and there, a hiccup. Then all of a sudden, all the utilities, we hit this wall of no availability. And what's happened is everybody grabbed everything they can get. So there's zero on the shelf. There is nothing. All you're doing right now is buying capacity at a manufacturing plant. That's what you're doing. So this is just, you're getting a slot. And this isn't just for transformers. It's for main switchboards, switchgear inside of a building. Everybody's in the same boat. And it probably started with the building switches first. Now it's transferring over into the transformers that feed into these customers. We're telling people right now today, if you're not in line today for a transformer, you're not looking at a transformer for a minimum of 6 months. And a lot of these folks are expecting to get service in a month. And it's all over the place. It's small and it's big. So to Hamid's point, and everybody at the light bulb, you have to change the way that you're purchasing transformers. You have to say, I'm going to buy 100 of these. I'm going to buy 20 of these. Get in line. You're in line. You're going to have to pay, and you pay the price. You say, okay, I'm going to pay you this base. It could be higher. It could be lower, doubtful lower, but you have to get in line, because you do not get in line, you will not get your customer the service that they need in time, period. And it's absolutely, it's people haven't, I think what's going to happen is anybody who's doing a large MDU project, these guys know if they can't get an occupancy permit, they will shut the doors on that project. And we're going to see projects just slamming the door shut. And the next 6 months, they're just going to close them all down because we can't get transformers to them. Meaning not we, but the
Sure.
power industry cannot do it. So it's
Yeah.
real. It's everywhere.
Thank you. I mean, it follows the semiconductor chip.
Bob, can I make a comment, please? So there's actually, I'll just give you the impacts real quick. Commodity impact, carbon steel, copper, oil, transformer regulator, switch gears, the cost of raw material pricing, freight costs, types of freight, availability and freight labor, manufacturing labor, including customs, lack of custom staffing, electrical steel, both grain oriented for transformer cores, non-oriented for EVs. There's only one core steel manufacturer in the United States and 5 global. Oil, staffing levels, and national security of the impacts. So what I'm doing is I've called NEPA. We're going to see if we can't put in another aggregated bid at a higher price so that maybe we can get into a queue, because after we talk next week or the week after about the bid, they're all already talking to us that they might not be taking quotes because they're 100 weeks out. So one is an aggregated bid to get the price up to see if we can get some other MLPs. And the other thing is the legislative avenue to talk about, a lot of the commitments that we've made. If we're not going to get transformers, maybe the government can help shift what they're working on and where they're funding the money. And the third one is refurbishment. So a lot of, Bob, I'm sure you've got a lot of your transformers sent out for refurbishment to get them back. And we'll be looking for places as well. So we are working on it. We're trying to stay ahead of it. The wire is still okay. But again, if there's mass purchases, then that's going to hit as well. So I'll send you a copy of this slide presentation that we got from one of our vendors. It's pretty insightful.
Also, in anticipation, Mr. Chair, if I may continue.
Yes.
In anticipation of the problem, last year we beefed up our transformer ordering, and I'm glad that we did that because we could see the problem is coming. So I feel comfortable with the inventory and, for the rest of the year. But we need to definitely go out on a bid or, continue with this and double up the order. So just take a placeholder so we can, have these transformers coming in next year. So we need definitely transformers next year. And we are, like what I said, I'm in process of developing a business continuity plan that, it encompasses all of those factors and risk management and all of that kind of stuff. So to see that, how we're going to go through this and what we need to do, and continuously we might have to change our strategy. And if that's the case, we are doing that, and we are monitoring the market, and we're going to adjust plans accordingly. So we're not going to run into a situation that we're depleting all the inventory and the stock items, going fast through them, and we're not going to be able to do any maintenance or any emergencies that we might come up.
It is going to get very wild west. People
Yes.
will. There's a different methodology. You can allow a customer to purchase their own transformer, and that's going to happen very quickly. And as soon as that happens, it's going to be, I'll pay anything for the transformer.
Yes.
So, and that's why they'll stop taking orders, and they'll just say, all right, I'm gonna. So that's why it's extremely important that we get in line, or you get
Yes.
into that queue of manufacturing capacity. It's really nothing about to do with what you can purchase. It's about getting time in the factory.
Yeah. Bob, just to give an example, the 25 kVA transformer that last year we paid $3,600 for it. This year they're asking for $16,000, 500% over what we paid last year.
Right.
Now, we're changing that. One of the strategies we do now, because with the anticipation of the electrification and the load growth in the area that an EV charge is going up, we're not making we're eliminating the 25 kVA transformers, and we're upsizing to 37.5 kVA, which is going to cost $6,000 less.
Yeah.
So it's $10,000. So for higher transformer, we get more bang for the buck. So we're doing these type of analysis, trying to make the most buck for the bank, and making sure that we are careful with the spending, and we have enough, so we can continue our business and doing business. It won't be business as usual. It's a tough time, and just to make the matter more complicated, National Grid and Eversource have already placed their orders in the production line throughout the 2022. Now they're placing orders for 2023 and on. So you're right. You're absolutely right. We need to open up a slot and place this order fast enough so we in the line for the production and the delivery. The generator for Station 3, the delivery has been delayed 3 times. We were supposed to get the generator last October. Now then the delivery is going to be September 1st. So you're started seeing a shock, that is going through the industry across all the, sectors of the business. That how, and it's impacting our business. Definitely, it's going to impact everybody. But we are ahead of the game so far compared to other, municipals that I'm talking, and saying, oh well, what do you got so many transformers? What do you got to be worried about? I said, I'm not worried about this year. I can carry through this year, but I'm worried about the future, meaning we have to be proactive about ordering the materials for 2023 and on. And we need to get in the line from now.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I'll move on to item number 7, RMLD procurement request requiring board approval. All right.
Okay. You want the motion, Mr. Chair?
Yes, if you could, please, Phil.
Okay. Move that bid IFB 2021-28 for electric vehicle charging station site construction and installation be awarded to Covello Electric and General Contracting Company, Inc. for $95,000 pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30, Section 39M, as the lowest responsible and eligible bidder on the recommendation of the General Manager.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, there was a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
We get an explanation
back,
of
aye.
what we got here?
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted to go through each one. Phil, you want to go through all of them?
Why don't we do that? Get some
Okay,
background.
sure. Okay. All right, well, why don't we go to the next one then, if there's no discussion? Okay,
Did we vote
What
on
was-
this one? Did we vote on this?
no,
No, you didn't vote.
no, we'll vote on this one, Phil, we'll vote on each one, because isn't each one a motion?
Yes.
Okay, so there was a second, so why don't we vote on
Okay.
the
Ms.
first?
Pacino, aye?
Marlena
Spencer,
Bita, aye.
aye.
But I,
Coulter, aye. That passes 5-0. Okay, Phil, if you could read the next
Okay,
motion,
next one.
please.
Move the proposal IFP 2022-01 for one parent, the number one end parent trouble truck with trade-in be awarded to James A. Kiley Company for $252,419. And I'm assuming that's 1 cent as opposed to 1/10 cent pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 164, Section 56D on the recommendation, General Manager.
Any further discussion? Seeing none?
just, how many bids were there on that?
On this one, there were two bids, one from Altec Industries. Actually, the bid was sent out to 18 companies. We received 2 back, Altec and James Kiley. And James Kiley was the lowest responsive bidder. And they took the trade-in for $4,500, the truck number 10. So
The trade-in 4,500.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Like the other company, how, in what ways were they not responsive or not responsible?
I don't know, they didn't pay, this one, the other company, Altec, took exceptions. They didn't take exceptions, but they didn't complete the documents that they're supposed to provide for our purchasing group in order to proceed with it. So the certifications and all kind of, warranties that supposed to provide us, the number of warranties that you're asking for on section 22.1, 22.2, and 22.3. So those warranties probably they didn't get the documentation on those, or they didn't fill the right paperwork. So that discount, plus they were high too. They were asking 200 after the trade-in. It was 292,193, while with $50,000 less, almost $46,000 less, that was the Kiley for 248,182. So, and this is pretty much the truck cost. So it is. Let me see. The last time that we went out to bid for the covered truck back in 2017, the price was $174,125.16, and the delivery was 42 weeks. So, with obviously the cost has gone up over time, over this, 2017, 5 years ago. So this is now what the price is for the covered truck, which is more advanced than the previous one, obviously.
And how come the existing truck is being given to him for 4,500 and not put out for sale, put on auction like we have in the past?
Well, our experience been that you get better, we get better pricing for the trade-in. I mean, to go to the auction, and it takes a lot of resources, and then we probably do not going to get much, because nobody wants the truck that First of all, once you do that, you're going to have to wait for 52 weeks for the new truck. If you sell that, they get that money, or even if you wait and do that after, there are no guarantees that you're really going to get any more than that. So,
but isn't the used vehicle market just skyrocketing, and there's shortages of trucks, and you just got finished telling us how there's shortages of transformers. So
yeah,
if the thing's rolling, can you do the deal to just keep the truck and give them $4,500 more and bring it to auction? Maybe consider doing that.
Yeah, this truck has, the mileage is high. It has 150,921 and engine hours. And, the truck is basically being used from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. and after work emergencies and here, there. So it is high mileage, and the truck needs more maintenance. It's the time that, you need to spend more money And in order to get that even, running in the running order, that it's going to be acceptable to make it. So I don't know. Again, there is uncertainty in the market, on that market too. You're right. Probably if we send it out to there, we might get higher price, we might not get, but there would be less headache and less complications as far as bidding concerned. They give you better prices usually when you trade in the value. They might, trade in with a lower price, but they also give us, better price on the other end.
Yeah.
So,
And you don't trade it in for a year.
Yeah,
You're
and
still,
then
you're not, Dave, you're keeping that truck for another
Right.
year.
Yeah.
You don't trade that truck in until you get delivery of this one. So,
That's
but
right.
maybe
I see.
we can figure out if you could get a higher value than 4,500 at what cost.
Yeah, it would be nice that can we tweak the contract to give RMLD the option of not giving them the trade? And at RMLD's discretion, and that at RMLD's discretion, we will either give the trade for 45, or at that time, if we decide to, hold it back and pay him an extra 4,500.
We can ask that, but I think the reason that we got this price was with the trade-in value. So because they're going to be making, what they're going to do, they're going to take the truck and they're going to fix it and put it on the secondary market to make some money. So they have calculated into account that how much I'm going to be making if I fix it and put it out to put it in the market for sale.
Right. They
I
are
give you a discount from
there to
this
make
end.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why then they say that, okay, I can take a little, go a little bit low on the base price because I'm making on the other end. So, with the car dealers, you're never going to win. It won't be to your advantage. They're going to, make the deal to their advantage. So, yeah, we can ask them if they're going to be, but I bet they're going to come back and say, so the price is going to be higher then.
I think we need to go ask. I mean,
Sure.
I just had a flashback to Truckgate here.
Right.
I don't want to relive Truckgate again. One company offers us 7,000 and they offer 4,500.
Mhm.
I mean, could we go back and say, will you match the 7,000? I don't know, something.
Yeah,
Well,
we can negotiate.
One thought might be to see what the trucks sell for on the secondary marketplace that are
Right.
used.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're not in the truck fixing business.
No.
We're in the utility business.
Right.
So, I just think that we have to be careful about our use of resources to be tracking things down. If it's a $100,000 deal, yeah, okay, then it makes a difference. If it's $10,000, probably not. Just move on and do your job.
I'm just thinking, look up a price. Find a truck on the market that's the same date, same miles, plus another year's worth of miles. See what the cost is. Understanding if you get a third of that price, because it's going to cost a third to fix it and a third to get a profit on it. So if you're getting 1/3 of that money, it's a solid deal, right? So if that truck is anywhere around $15,000 on the open market, or somewhere in that range, 20,000, whatever it is, depending how much it's going to cost to fix it. So, but
Right.
okay.
We can go back and we could always negotiate for lower, and we can do that. Yes, we're gonna go and ask them that, the other company is giving us 7,000, but they're gonna say that, I'm sure the other because
Go ahead.
they're gonna say that, well, the other company is giving you more because they give you more for the truck trade-in, but they also give you higher on the base price. So, but we can try, because nothing prevents us for asking them to match. What is the worst that could happen? No, we can't do that. Okay, so if they say no, do you want us to proceed with it, or you want us to, go back and retry? And because I don't want to, delay the delivery, because as it is, the delivery, you're talking about 57 to 70 weeks.
Yeah, I defer to what Bob said a minute ago. So.
Yeah.
Let's just, I don't know. Well, we'll go through the motion to see if we want to continue forward at this point. I'd say we table it until you come back with that. If you can provide that piece of information, we'll put it forward in the next meeting and then vote then.
Okay, sure. I could do that.
Okay. Okay, Phil, if you want to move to the next motion?
All right. So we're tabling the previous motion. How the minutes should reflect that we tabled the motion. Move that bid IFB 2022-04 for home energy assessment program be awarded to Energy New England LLC for $82,500 pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B, as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder on the recommendation of General Manager. This is a 3-year contract.
When can we ask questions about this one, after the second or?
Yeah, after the second.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Greg, if you could.
You did. So this is a program that we do through our EEC. We basically provide residential energy assessments. We've been doing it for quite some time. The last contract expired at the end of the year. We need to go back out. The price that came back in terms of each individual pieces, before it was $176 per audit. Those were in-person audits up until COVID hit. So in this particular one, we asked them to break out the price for in-person versus virtual. We prefer in-person, but the in-person is $185 versus the past when it was $176, and then the virtual would be $150. We expect the balance to be 2/3, 1/3 between in-person and then virtual. Energy New England's been running the program in the past. There was a lot of interest in this. There were 2 companies, we were expecting bids from 3 companies. There are 15 that had expressed a lot of interest. Some of them were fairly small. And when they saw the size of the documentation, they decided not to bid. But the Energy New England, CET, and Abode were the 3 that we expected to bid. CET decided to stay. They're primarily mass save focused. Abode last minute decided to not get into the audit business, which was kind of a surprise. Energy New England does a good job. So it's something that we want to continue. The price is good. So that's kind of the background on it. Any questions?
I do have one question, is that having been through the Mass Saves version, which is the gas company, you can get it through Mass Saves, you'll actually come in and pay for like attic insulation. But Energy New England's version does not do that. I don't think, and I don't know why that's not done, or how that works, or why you get insulation done from Mass Saves, but not the ones that we do.
Yeah, so to answer to that particular piece, we are actually literally right now in the process of putting together a weatherization program, which would be insulation. So this is just the audit piece. And then as you've experienced, and I've experienced as well with Mass Save and RISE programs, then they give you a bunch of options in terms of, hey, there's a bunch of things we recommend, here's the cost, and there's rebates tied to them. We're actually, our intention is actually to do an insulation program and actually tie it to the air source heat pump program. We're literally in the middle of that right now. So probably early summer, we'll present that to you guys. So we want to do that. Those funds will come out of the EEC fund. We're trying to work through all the economics, et cetera, and make sure we actually can implement it. So we anticipate presenting that to you, but this is just the audit, and it will make recommendations of which weatherization. Insulation is step number 1, particularly ceiling insulation, and then air sealing, et cetera, et cetera. So
does this audit, the only question I have is, does this audit that we're commissioning now include an air test where they actually go and see if there's air leakage?
Yep. So there's 2 options. There's what's also in this. They will do an air blower test, a door test, air door test. There's an additional fee for that for the ones that we want to have them do that on. It's another $200 per test. Obviously, you wouldn't do it on a virtual. You could do it on in the in-person one. So as we put the weatherization program in place, we'll probably mandate the air blower test as part of it.
But that's not where you're getting with the one that we're voting on tonight. They don't come in and do the air blower test with the thing.
The 185, yeah, the 185 here is everything but that. That's correct. Yeah, they offered it as an additional option, and we'll probably put it in place. But right now, this bid is just for the audits, just the audits only. It's not perfect, but we need to keep the audit program running.
is it full already? I know there was a list, is there a backlog of audits and
Yes,
would,
yes. So
will this be adequate to continue the moving forward with new requests?
yeah, this is more than what we expect on an average number of audit requests for residential programs. We've been below 100, but because the contract ended and we had to work through the proper sequence to do this bid, we've been collecting the request for the audits for January and February and March, and the intention was to pick up that backlog in April and then move it forward. It's good. You know, we would like to do better. We're expecting better. It's good, but it will probably have to step up. Well, as you mentioned, Dave will tie into the weatherization program, which is different than this, a more mandated air blower test for air sealing. That's coming. That's down the road.
Dave, real quick, on the IOPs, there's a fee on everybody's bill that builds up, that goes towards Mass Save, that isn't a general fund. Mass Save works out of that general fund, and then there's dollars available for everyone to spend, and it's massive. We don't have that. Right?
We have
So
something though, right? We have
well, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, so what we ended up doing with the rates, remember, so the Mass Save, so the IOU rate is 17 cents. It's 1.75 cents. Ours is 0.3 of a cent. So we're literally 1/6 of it. But what we're doing with the budget right now is we're working into the weatherization program, which will primarily start with the insulation and air sealing. Those are the two primary ones that you tend to get. And we're trying to work down how deep we can go and how much of the incentive we would put in place. So anyways, to answer your question, we would use it. We're trying to roll it into the existing current EEC budget, which is 0.3 of a cent, which is what we upgraded, which is what we did last summer. Went from 1/10 of a cent to 0.3 of a cent. We would try and put the dollars into that at least for the next year, and then see how popular it is, and then move it forward. So this is a literally an intermediate step to keep just the audit program running.
I'm ready to vote on it. You guys are. Second. All those in favor? Talbot, aye.
Mr. Pacino, aye.
Marlena Beta, aye.
Mr. Stempak, aye.
Thank you.
All right. Moving down to item number 10, the GM evaluation and 21 goals and board book, which was very good, by the way. Very nice presentation for whoever put together. Okay. Colleen, at this point, did you want to take over?
I can. Eric, I don't
Okay.
know who's sharing. Is that Erica?
Yep.
Okay. So clearly the tool of versatility. What I tried to do this year and trying to set up for the new look of the annual report. I mean, as you know, we've been working on a number of years, changing silos and having more cross-divisional work together. It's been going really, really well. So I thought it was time that instead of listing the accomplishments by division, that we applauded everyone's work across the divisions by putting them into critical function buckets that apply to our mission. So if you want to go to the next slide, Erica. So this is just my typical, letter to the board and to the communities, just talking about, why did we pick the theme of versatility for last year? What was it that was so important about the year of why the skill sets at the RMLD of all the employees was so important that versatility had to really shine in order to stay ahead of all of our goals and get all the work done, which resulted in, business continuity, and in some projects we finished on time. Some we were ahead of schedule. We certainly did a lot of incentive programs, much more than we had anticipated. And, that was all at the heels of the virus from 2020. And so I think coming off of that, the new technology that we integrated, I thought it was a wonderful year. And I think all of staff, did a fantastic job. We didn't, we had to shift things, and we had to adapt to a lot of changes. And I think everyone did a great job. So next page. So the new look. So if you remember in the past, we just write down the accomplishments by divisions. These are the new critical function buckets that we're looking at. Let's see how you would like it this way. And then within each of these critical functions, what are the types of deliverables and projects that we work on, and where would they fit in? So this kind of gives you a layout of how we kind of assigned each of our accomplishments within the main functions. So next page. So then, because we want to look at each of the things that we accomplished, and we want to say, okay, well, that is leadership, but then it's also reliability, it's also safety, it's got sustainability in it. We certainly help the community. So what I tried to do this year is list all the accomplishments, in a compact form, so we could make the annual report more concise. And as I said earlier, what we will add is the construction highlights, because each of the towns like to see what did we physically do for upgrades in the system reliability for their towns. And we'll probably put some charts about how many rebates and things like that. Lots of little charts that people can see and visualize, accomplishments. And so as you go down through these, I won't go through them. They're all there to read, and they'll be on the website. But you can see where each of the critical functions plays into them. So I was very happy with last year's performance with everyone. Everyone did work so much better. It was almost exponential that the silos dropped, and a lot of it had to do, we hired some new people. I mean, Greg's one of them, and everyone just kind of came together and worked well. I mean, it's a perfect example is the electrification. I mean, that's something in IRD, we come up with the programs and the plans, and that has to go over to the transformer load management. It's got to go onto the GIS. We have to make changes out in the field, and it's a flow process. And, that all flows through purchasing. I mean, it just seemed much more seamless this year. And so I thought that, in order to show such appreciation to all of the staff, that this would be a better way to display it. So I hope you like it. And the next page, is that it? And then the next page were the goals that I didn't really get assigned at the beginning of the year, but because of COVID, we kind of met halfway through the year. And, I had already hit the ground running with a bunch of them between January and June. So instead of just having 5 goals, you all added another 5. That's okay. I'm up for the challenge. And we've got them all done. So we just kind of talked about goal number 11. So if you want to go to the next slide, this is a narrative that just talks about each one of those goals and where we've landed. The land for the substation, we made a lot of headway on that last year. Of course, we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. IT roadmap was completed. Our cyber security practices have all been changed. Our IT system and network is much more resilient. We implemented all of the internets, and then we hired Brian Hatch. He's been doing a great job as well. And we are 200% tighter than we were a couple of years ago in IT. So thanks to that group. Class cost of service study, Chuck and Greg and that group, those were lots of slides that we went through on our educational programs over the last year through the climate law. And all the renewable choice programs and things that we laid out for the customers all got implemented. So that was a great success. I think we learned a lot from that, and we were able to develop so many more incentives for our customers as a result of that. Number 4 was the APPA RP3 award in the excellence and reliability. We landed on a platinum. So yeah, this is a voluntary thing, but the point is that I've always been very pro about auditing, right? When OSHA was coming down the pike, the first thing I'm going to do is audit myself. Where am I? What am I doing? What do we need to do to be in compliance? This is the same type of thing. The APPA RP3 award or the Reliability Excellence Award is voluntary, but it's an audit. And you put together this work that you're requested to as a way of determining as to whether or not you're in compliance. Are you on track? Are you going in the right direction? Are you following the rules? What do you need to do better? So to get these awards really does show that our technology roadmaps and where we're heading is in the right direction. So I like to do that every year because it keeps the team moving forward and you know, helps to reinforce that our mission and our goals are heading in the right direction for success, and that they also align with a lot of larger APPA members of IOUs across the nation, including in Massachusetts. So number 5. Number 5 was the series of training sessions. Kind of, I just talked about those. I actually included them in the packet. If you look at them, I'm sure you'll be wowed again. We created an awful lot of educational slide presentations to go through, whether it was the Palmer, the Renewable Policy 30, the climate law, the renewable choice programs, you know, all the different options and everything. And Greg and I worked really hard to try to make that into a story because it is a complicated industry and it was a lot of information to learn. So we took a lot of time to kind of lay those things out. If you notice when Greg talks, he reminds everyone, he's like, we talked about this last month, so that it continued to be a story. So I think those sessions for education were excellent. We also discussed them internally with staff in our light learning sessions. We did the whole climate law and things like that with customer service, and anyone can join in on the light learning sessions to learn about all those slides that we went over. The Policy 30, kind of the same type of topic. The way we landed on that was that we adopted the Massachusetts climate law in addition to a 3% acceleration on the retirement of the RECs, on the certificates, excuse me, so that we would make a smoother transition for the decade goals for the state. And I think that was a good way to do it. I know that there was some other discussions of doing more. And I think with all the prices going up and stuff, I'm glad we landed there. I'm glad you guys supported us on that. And, you know, we can always do more, but I think the way we decided, we did more than the law required, but I thought we took it to a point where it made it manageable. Okay. And then with the renewable choice, it gives people even more options. We also had the A3 rate, which allows another area of that quadrant where the transformers are not quite loaded. We're going to try to keep pushing people using, smart appliances and stuff and electrification into that zone to try to make those transformers stretch. Right now that we've got the supply chain issues that are really kind of hitting home, we want to keep driving that into that quadrant. We talked about the new renewable choice under number 7, the 50, 75, and 100% markers. Number 8, all 3 union contract negotiations commenced in 2021, and they are continuing to be productive. The RMLD generated an environmental due diligence operating procedure. I think we submitted that right after Policy 30. We generated that policy, and each of the ones that we have submitted to you for both the CAB and the board, we have submitted that. We have a third party help us with that. The state typically does the social justice, so our operating procedure talks more about finding the social justice that's done by the state. So we present that to you as well when we're buying purchasing power. And then the last one was the Cultural Solutions Group through the Dennison Company. We had to go through the whole procurement process, find someone that works with MLPs, that understands our business, that can help create the types of questions that can talk about this particular type of business model. In addition to, everything that Carolyn kind of went over. I mean, I did a lot of research and a lot of work to make sure that we found someone that would be able to present a situation to us or the results that will be helpful for culture and leadership and bringing the company forward into the future. So I'm looking forward to going through all those questions. I know Janet's gotten them and I haven't taken a look at them yet. And then we'll send them over to you. You can add what you want to add. And then we can talk a little bit more about when's going to be the best time to get that kicked off. And those are the goals that I got assigned. So they all went well. And then the supporting documents, Eric, if you just want to just flip through them, just kind of roll through them, just so everybody kind of gets a reminder of everything that we did in 2021, everything that we covered. It was quite an amazing year for productivity. Really fantastic. And I don't know, kudos to everyone that works at the RMLD. Again, I'm really proud of them with the silos kind of coming down and everybody working together. It was a long wait, but it happened. So it's good. So thank you.
All right. Next item is schedule. Okay. April 21st is the next meeting, but I know we talked about squeezing another one in potentially to discuss transformers, which the faster, the better you can hear it. You got to get in line. If you don't get, every week you delay right now could be a month. So it's critical. So I think next week.
I'm sending you an email though. I have to double check on chapter 164 for recommendations on open-ended bids. Because remember the price, so there's an escalate and I know, I just have to double check, because when the general manager recommends and it's open-ended, I just want to make sure legally that that's something that I can do. But before we go on that, are we going to talk about my raise?
Yeah.
When are we doing that? Oh, is that another
July?
meeting?
July.
In July?
Yes.
For 2021?
Well, absolutely. We'll talk about July 7th, 8th, probably perfect time.
I'll be gone.
So what time? What time? You pick.
I don't know. Last year we did a separate meeting for my evaluation, so I wasn't really sure what we were doing this time.
I would recommend a separate meeting, not a long one like tonight, but something that gives people the time to look over the material that Colleen has sent out, to form some of their conclusions, to get some guidelines from you, Rob, in terms of what's allowed, et cetera, and then have a short meeting, relatively short, to kind of walk through it and make recommendations, if that makes sense.
Sure. I mean, just quick. How long do you think your meeting would take?
Not more than half an hour.
Okay.
I would say we got to be done by 10. If you have more questions, because I got about 10 slides that I like to go through. So basically telling you, I told you the main concern and the main slide, but I'm going to get a little bit more into details of that. And then voting, obviously, on how we're going to proceed.
Yeah, I just think, just the point is you got to get in line, period.
Exactly.
The factors behind it are irrelevant at this point.
Right.
You can't control it.
No.
The point is you got to figure out a mechanism to get in line. So I think just us agreeing that you need to do it. Colleen, you said we got to figure out how to do an open-ended law. This is unprecedented delays that are going to be affecting your ability to provide service as as a MLP. So
Right.
you're breaking new ground. This is unheard of in this industry.
Right.
So I think you're gonna have, regardless of what it is, we're gonna be pushing the envelope of some rule or regulation, fall back and we'll correct it if we make a mistake. But I think you have to
Right.
get in line. So I think next week we need to get a meeting, probably Wednesday, if possible.
But we're waiting for the cab. So the reason why we picked the 4th is because it's the cab meeting, and the cab can say, okay, because it's $1 million more than what's in the budget.
That's well, it's gonna, cost of materials are uncontrollable, right? And you there's nothing you can do to control that. If the price of fuel goes up 200%, okay, you're blowing your budget. There's nothing you can do about that. You just have to pay it as a pass-through. So you missed your budget. And then the consequences, I know Wendy loves to hear that word, you missed your budget, but I mean, the consequences of that are real. So, I think the 4th is, well, we can do the 4th on a Monday. Yeah.
That's when the
Okay.
cab's meeting,
All right.
at 6 o'clock. Gonna have the cab vote on the bid, and then you vote on the bid, and then hopefully I'll get with NEPA, and we'll, in the next April meeting, I might bring another bid to you, because I want to get back in the queue again.
That's right.
Okay.
Because we cannot, I just remember, we cannot double up this order because it impacts the prices. The price is probably going to be different. So we're going to have to go for another bid the next time. And we have a strategy in place to manage the crisis. And we keep reevaluating as we go through this. So I feel comfortable with the plan. But
I want to do another go out again for a higher price so that we can
Right.
actually compete with National Grid and get the other MLPs. Because the manufacturer yesterday said that they're not going to be taking any more quotes.
Yeah.
They're queued out so long that they won't even accept any bids anymore. So I want to get it in before they make that change.
That's why the 4th and waiting, that's a week is a long time.
So I think one of the reasons was that the cab couldn't get a quorum to vote until the 4th. So that's why they had to wait to do it the 4th, because we can't do anything until they vote on it.
If you want to vote on it tonight and put a motion in, I mean, we can do it a contingent motion. If you feel that strongly about that, we're going to miss a window, and then take it to the cab on the 4th, as long as I have it in by the 11th. That's when the
That
answer
seems
is
a lot
due.
easier. That seems a lot easier.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
unless any of us are like really maybe against this.
Jason, would you be okay with doing that in reverse order?
It's fine with me.
Okay. Why don't we do that? And then that way, contingent upon cab approval, you'd be ready to execute.
that would be great. I
Okay, well,
appreciate it.
Erica, you have the motion that I took out. And Jason, you're having the same issue too, right? Did you guys open your bid this week?
We opened it back in January and we awarded it, but we're, worried. We actually had a request off of pole moments last September. It was just a request for quote that we awarded, and they were due in January, and now we're being told end of May if we're lucky. And that was before any of this. So
Okay, thank you.
it's a big problem. The problem we have is storage. You can only order so many. There's only so many places you can put them.
Your backyard.
Yeah.
So I actually don't have a bid motion for this one. We didn't have one originally. Hamid, I don't know if you have any documents that have a motion.
No, I don't have it because I'm usually getting it the day of the board meeting. So I don't have the motion. These prices are going to be held for 30 days. They said at least, so we got time for the 4th. If we're going to be meeting on the 4th, we can wait. So we have proper motion, and then that way the cab is going to go first, and then the board of commissioners, they're going to go second. So we
Well,
can
what are
wait
we
until.
What are we
4th.
actually we're gonna buy something here, or what exactly explain? Maybe I
Yeah.
can craft a motion here while we're waiting, is what I'm
Yeah.
kind of angling for here.
Yeah, we're going to be buying the pole mounted and pad mounted transformers. I don't have the exact quantity, but
Pole
you know,
mounted, say that again, pole mounted,
pole mounted transformers of various sizes, as well as the pad mounted transformers
slow
of
down,
various
I'm trying to
sizes.
write.
Yeah.
We got pole mounted transformers of various sizes, and then what else?
And then pad mounted, pad
Pad
mounted
mounted.
transformers of various sizes.
All right, so let me try this.
We need a value.
We need value.
2 million,
It's 1.9 million.
2 million. Yeah, use 2 million.
You could say not to exceed that amount.
Right.
I wouldn't say not to exceed.
Okay.
I would not
Yeah,
say that.
'cause-
You cannot say that. You don't know where it's gonna go. You just say, I'm estimating $2 million to reach
Okay.
transformers to supply RMLD customers in emergency situations for the calendar year 2022, 2023. And leave it a general motion, so you're allocating money to spend.
Bob, repeat that again. Let me try again. Let me try again here.
I would say, you're allocating $2 million, approximating $2 million to supply RMLD customers and emergency supply for calendar year 2022 and 2023. It's open on purpose. And whether you say are you going to Eaton? Are you going to?
No, we go to various distributors, the
Well-
Gray Bar, Wesco, and all.
Well, why don't you set it up where you go to, say you're putting, you're gonna try to go to all of them, right?
Yes, we do. We
Right.
have this.
Hamid, do you have the IFB number? Why don't we just say the IFB number, please?
Unfortunately, I don't have it. I had it. Then
I might have it. Is this IFP 2022-10 pad mounted transformers?
Yep.
Yeah,
Number
and then-
10.
that's
Correct,
one of them.
And then the other one, pole mounted.
The other one
The other
was pole
IFB.
mounted.
All right, let me find that
9
one.
or 11. Be 2022, 9 or 11, right?
Both from Maureen Sullivan.
Yep, 10 and 11, it looks like. So IFP 2022-11. Oh, wait, no, that's Station 4 transformer repair. Is that right?
No, that's a different one.
Pole mounted and
Sorry.
pad mounted.
Yes, pole
2022.
mounted and pad mounted.
Like 9 and 10.
2022-10.
So it would be moved at bid IFB, the number, for pad mounted transformers to be. You have it in front of you?
Hold on.
Multiple distributors, manufacturers.
Yeah.
Pole mounted is 9, pad mounted is 10.
Okay.
We could put the motion up on the screen, maybe screen share. Somebody can write the motion, put something up on the screen share.
Okay, one more time.
Hmm.
What are we working with?
Carolyn, Erica, you putting up a blank sheet to type?
Yeah, I'm typing right now, and I'm gonna put up the sheet. Okay, can you see this blank Word document? So. All right, can we start from the beginning? Can we see this?
No,
No.
you're not
Oh.
sharing.
How about now?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's move that bid IFB and the two numbers 2022 10 and 2022 11
I thought it was 9.
9 for pad
9
mounted and pole mounted transformers.
from various vendors or distributors, from various vendors and distributors.
At approximately $2 million.
I'll clean it up.
This
2
was
million.
Mass General Law 164.
Yeah.
And at the recommendation of the general manager.
Okay.
Okay. And then do we want to add the CAB in there somewhere?
Right.
Well, let's put it after the IFP 2022-9. Subject to the subject to the approval of the Citizen Advisory Board.
Yeah.
I think we've been doing
And-
this.
Right, and that,
Right, okay.
yeah, and after the move, it's moved that the Board of Commissioners contingent on the recommendation of the Citizens Advisory Board.
What about switch gear and reclosers? Or do you need to purchase?
Yeah, actually for cables, switch gears, and the other product as well.
Not on this one.
Yeah.
But it's not part of this one. This is just for the transformers. But we could go for a separate, probably
I would prepare one for
motion for other
switch-
product.
Yeah, switch gears is the same. Also, if you had to do any type of pad mounted reclosing gear, especially when you're doing DGs type stuff, even Vipers or Eatons, all of a sudden everything is creeping into this
impacted.
world.
Right.
Yeah. So you might wanna
Reclosers,
think
capacitors, and switch gears. These are the three main items, and cable.
Should we add emergency unprecedented language here?
Good idea.
Yes.
Erica, you should probably take the first few words from the motion we did for the battery. It has the language move that the Board of Commissioners on the recommendation, on the contingent on the Citizen Advisory Board vote to accept the general manager's recommendation to award contracts to various. Yeah, so go ahead, recommendation.
Let me just stop sharing really quick, and I'm going to pull that up so I can double screen.
That way you get the proper language in, and then you can close with given the unprecedented circumstances that Wendy mentioned.
I don't think I've ever seen Wendy sweat, but I think we're making her sweat right now. It's fantastic. I apologize for that.
Well, I appreciate it. That's gonna make me
so
to
funny.
sleep well tonight. Sleep better tonight.
We all know it doesn't always come down to the dollar, right? It's everything that matters.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I think, Wendy, I just need what you wanted to add.
Okay, make the same thing. Just add switch gears.
Add switch gears into this motion,
No, separate motion.
separate motion.
Yeah, and the same language, basically. I wouldn't just say IFB because we don't know what IFB is gonna be. So
Yeah.
just call it for the future bid in 2022 and 2023.
So, folks, just to describe what a switch gear is.
Yeah.
You have a fuse panel in your house before a switch here, your circuit breakers, they go back and forth. That little fuse pops to protect your main panel and the device from blowing up. before a surge of electricity would go in. A switchgear does the same exact thing, just on an industrial size. It's able to handle an arc and take that overload and dissipate it through a fuse and take that electrical surge and control it, where if it didn't exist, the surge would go through, hit the transformer, hit your house, and everything would blow up. And unfortunately, that does happen every once in a while, but the switchgear is, we always use it with pad mounted equipment of certain, of certain sizes. When you can't do a fuse in an overhead, you use a switchgear. And I typically, yeah,
Right.
go ahead. Sorry,
No, I'm sorry. Then the switchgear, absolutely right. The switchgear, rather than fuse, it has vacuum interrupters. It's like a breaker that opens up when there is any fault, any problems on the load side for industrial application.
Erica, I
Yes.
think after on the recommendation of the GM, due to unprecedented and emergency situation, something like that.
So vote to
Well, that
accept the.
first paragraph, you want to take the rec of the GM after 164, because you already have it in the first.
Yeah.
Oh, yep, thank you.
The 164, but after that.
Right here?
No, in the first paragraph, the very last, where it says at $2 million, Mass General Law 164, delete at the recommendation.
Oh, yeah, got you. Thank you.
I have to add that emergency language there, but
Due to emergency. Sorry, Wendy.
Unprecedented and emergency situation.
Unprecedented emergency situation.
All right. Okay, for switch gears, what else?
For the cable,
For what, I mean?
cable,
Cable,
wires,
wires,
yeah, switch gear, one
Switchgear.
word. Switch gear, one word.
one over there,
Closers
closers,
and capacitors.
capacitors.
RE.
Yeah.
Yeah, RE closer. It's the word recloser. It's very weird.
That's one word. RECLOSER. Recloser.
ER. Yeah. No, you.
Eventually. All right, how's that look? And then I'll clean it up. We can do the vote and I'll send you guys the final motion and vote.
You need the unprecedented at the very end of just copy and paste the unprecedented to the top paragraph.
Gotcha.
Nice work. Just paste it at the end if you want, or you anyway.
All right, how's that?
Okay, let me make a few changes. First up, in front of the word Board of Commissioners, put RMLD. So they know we're actually, okay. Contingent on the, accept the general manager due to unprecedented emergency. Why we got the word after emergency situation, we had the word approve? I'm not sure how that fits there. Okay.
So these are two bids that we just got results from. So we're actually this is the first round of bids that we just got back. We want to award those bids if we can.
Okay. Now we want to put it on the recommendation general manager at the end too.
It's in the second sentence.
You can just say to award.
Okay.
Oh, I get it. Got it right.
And then we should maybe put in front of Mass General Laws in accordance with Mass General Laws.
Yeah.
Okay, you got in the second one, you got to put the RMLD in front of the Board of Commissioners.
Do you want to put a time frame on that? I'm uncomfortable with open-ended. So do you want to say future bids, meaning like to the end of 2022 for now?
Well, it would be nicer if we could put 2022, 2023, because, you know, some of these people, I mean, they take longer time in order to respond to the bid. So if you can have, this problem is going to continue through to 2025. So if you can have the 2 years, that would be great. We don't have to go back.
Gonna need more than 2 million, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But
we
that's-
might have to come back with more, but at least this is going to get us out of the crisis.
Yeah, yeah,
For now.
sure. Please, Marlena.
Is this up to $2 million or aggregate?
I think you have to say aggregate. And I think you have to put some kind of a limit. I don't think you can stop it at 2 million, not to exceed, because I think you'll have to just come back and, because you're buying a space, and if someone's going to take your bid, right? This is what you want to call it. You're just buying space, and you might have to pay whatever the cost is at that time. And it's scary, but that's the way the industry is moving right now.
Yeah.
The 2 million is the transformers, because what you sort of have for cost now, but the switch
Yeah.
separate.
Yeah, switchgear is a separate. And cables. The other one is, you know, probably we need to mention some type of money for that too. Just
Maybe you put that at 30 grand. They're probably, you know, again, just getting harder to get. I got a quote on a 23 kV pad mounted recloser at almost $100,000.
Yeah.
So
just
So am I putting at approximately and then a number?
I just I don't know how much you use of this equipment. I don't know if if you're purchasing 5 a year or 10 a year.
no, but the switch gears we actually buy in 2 special units. It's the MOUs that with the motor operated, and it's SCADA, switches and control. So we're talking about each one of them is going to cost approximately about $200,000, 200.
Yeah.
This is for industrial park, river park. So we're talking about 400 plus, 450,000 just for that 2 items that you're going to purchase. Now the cables, they're another story, because we're going to have to order cables for primary and secondary, as well as the wires, the overhead wires. Also the reclosers, we have to buy 4 or 5 of them. And each one of them, it's like around $50,000. So, and I don't know, that's the last time that, we went out to bid, they were like 25, but the 3. But now I'm sure it's going to be at least 25% more that we're going to have to pay. Cap bank's the same. And regulators, we have enough regulators. I don't see that we don't have.
Can I make a suggestion that we don't do the second one right now? And if we're having a meeting on April 4th, we can have that. Are we trying not to have a meeting on April 4th? Is that the point of doing this? Because I don't think we're prepared to come up with an estimate for switchgear, cable, wire, recloser, and capacitors at this time.
So just stick with the first one then. And then we can develop a better
estimate, right?
Yes.
one. But I think tonight, I think you want to get the first one in place for the tab to be able to authorize it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So let me read the first one, Mr. Chair, if that's
Yes,
okay with
please,
you.
Phil.
Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners, contingent on the recommendation of the Citizens Advisory Board, vote to accept the general manager's recommendation due to unprecedented and emergency situations to award bid IFP 2022-10 and IFP 2022-9 for pad mounted and pole mounted transformers from various vendors and distributes approximately $2 million in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 164.
There's a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Ms. Pacino, aye?
Stempak, aye.
Talbot, aye.
Colleen
Ms.
Abita,
Coulter,
aye.
aye. Okay, passes 5-0. All right, over to you,
Great.
Jason, for Monday. Yep, sorry.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's very helpful.
Okay. So, sounds like Monday, the 4th will be our next meeting. And then do you want to still keep, well, you want to keep the 21st?
So I think the original intent was for Monday to be just joining the CAB meeting because they didn't have one tonight and just talking about the transformers. But now that we did that motion, I don't know if you still want to join that meeting on the 4th or if you just want to have the meeting on the 21st.
I'd say we go for the meeting on the 21st, unless you want to combine the meeting to discuss Colleen on the 4th, or is that, but that's the full CAB meeting though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, maybe that could go long, so. My opinion is stick with the 21st. Anybody open to discussion?
I think that's fine.
So we're just meeting the 21st.
Correct.
Sounds good.
Yep, fine with me.
And do we want to, talk about Colleen at that meeting or do we want to do a separate meeting?
Well, I think that would be a good agenda item, or a good agenda item.
All right, so I'll send something out for the 21st.
Okay. Adjournment.
You gotta go in executive session?
Yeah. Or no, sorry.
We'll make it quick.
Right, make it quick.
Okay.
Okay,
Move to the Board of Commissioners, go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 164, Section 47D, exemption from public records and open meeting requirements in certain instances to discuss deployment of security personnel and devices or strategy with respect thereto, and to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, and to return to regular session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
Second,
Okay, Ms. Pacino, aye?
Mr. Stempak, aye.
Abita, aye.
all right,
Thanks, all.
okay.
Everyone, good night.
But
Thank you.
Thank you.